Welcome back everyone. Today we're in the Giants editor and I'm Jewel and we're on the mod map of Elm Creek that you can make your own edit of in the Giants editor. And I'm going to try to do a little small tutorial on splines. I'm not going to get into every detail, just some basics of making a ramp and just making the ground a certain way. But we're going to show you a few tips on some shortcuts and things like that, but I'm going to keep this video short as I still don't have internet and I'm going to have to upload with a hotspot. So I'm going to keep it as short as possible and to the point of just this video, and then we'll work on other spline stuff later. There's also traffic splines that you can do. There's pedestrian splines. You can use splines for painting like a road down. You can use them for so many things. It's just nice. You can use it for the spline street constructor. Now I didn't use that particular method when I did my videos. I did the other method of the marker and I moved it along. I just kind of felt like I liked that way. I hadn't really messed with the other one at the time, so that's why I wasn't about to, try to get into it when I was just getting on to my map doing that. So I really wasn't going to get into that on that episode, but you can use it, splines, to make it easier to do the spline street constructor. So always avail yourself to that. But we're going to go ahead and get started. In this case, I'm going to create a spline. We're going to go to create and hit spline, and there's a new spline, and forget these were in another place on the map. We're going to work from this one. But before we get into that, I'm going to go ahead and show you a little tip that might help you out a little bit on some of this stuff and some shortcuts. So we're going to click on File, click on Preferences, and if you're usually under General tab, and this is what it would look like, except it would probably say 100 right here on the scale. I changed it to 1 when I exported my water plane to, not my water plane, but my terrain to Blender when I was making my water plane. So yours would say 100, just leave it like it is unless you're exporting something to Blender. You have a viewport stuff here you can see that you can do. You have scripting, which is this. I wouldn't mess with that unless you know what you're doing. And then you have shortcuts. So shortcuts has all the different things in it, like what the little shortcut keys are. Like, say, the one we're used to is Control B as in boy, interactive placement, which is where you just take the object, highlight it, and then you pick your spot and hit Control B and put it there. You got duplicate, Control D, we know that one. Some of you are familiar with. Then you got Control L to create a light source if you need a light. Sometimes you can use a light source just to see better for a moment and then delete it. You don't have to leave it. Just there's a whole bunch of different shortcuts, and it tells you what they are, and you just look down this list and use those accordingly. Now for the splines, you have the S, and it's to stitch the spline endpoints. And basically, when you're making the roadway or a pedestrian walkway or whatever you're making, and you want the road, you want an intersection, like you want it to go over the top of another spot or a road or what have you, and you want it to stitch it together there, you would use the S on that to stitch it at that control point. And then in this case, if you've made a circle and you got your starting point, go around, and you got your E for your ending point. The S is start, the E is end. You want to close that loop, so you're going to use the O to do that. So we'll get to that at that point. And then you have other little functions you can do, the up and down, left and right. It just tells you a whole list of different, things you can do. If you'll hover over some of these, that sometimes you can get more information, but basically it's not a whole lot that you're going to be using. You can use this one, R, for reverse. You're going to be using insert. So you can use, like I said, you can use up and down and left and right and so on. So we're going to go ahead and close this, but that'll help you out a little bit. whenever there's not somebody telling you, and you can go look and see for yourself. So we're going to hit Control B. We have the spline here. We're going to hit Control B, left mouse click, and that's 2 times. And then we're going to go to E. We're not going to turn, before we get on with that, I'm not going to turn this. You can turn it. You don't need to necessarily turn it all the time. I would say don't turn it. I apologize for the dog barking. So I would leave it, the gizmo, the way it's facing. Sometimes it creates issues on how it generates the ground. Sometimes it don't. It really just depends. I don't know all the details of why it does that. I just know it sometimes can do that. So leave it like it is, and we're just going to move these to go where we want them to go with Control B. So I'm going to hit Control B, and we're just going to put this E over here. I'm going to put this S over here. Hit Control B as in boy, left click, and I'm going to roll in where I can kind of see what's going on here. So now we're going to delete the S and to get it straighter. So now we have a S and an E, start and end. So now what I want to do in this case is I'm going to show you how you can reverse it. Remember we saw the R, you're going to hit R and it's going to change the S to the E and the E to the S. So there you go. Now it's flipped. Now you're going to change it back if you want. Hit R again. It changes it back. Alright, so that helps you there. And so another thing you can do is add a control point or a control vertex. So we're going to hit insert, and it's I and S on the keyboard, and we're going to, there's a couple ways, but basically hit Control B as in boy, then you're going to left mouse click where you want it, hold the left mouse button down when you hit Control B. So it's floating, it's waiting for me to finish that Control B move, but I'm not yet because I'm going to hit insert. So now I'm going to keep holding down left mouse button, do not let go of it at all until I say so, and then you're going to hit insert, and you're going to still be holding down the left mouse button. You're going to hit insert, and it's going to put it on the ground to the level of the ground, and you're going to keep holding down the left mouse button, and then you're going to hit insert. And we're going to keep them closer together because if you make them far apart, the line will go under the ground, and then the people will walk under the ground, or the cars will drive through the ground. And the reason for that is the ground might be low here, and then it's high right there, but we clicked it over here and it's already low again, so then that line's going to go from here straight to there, and the line's going to be right through the middle of the ground, and that's not going to be no good. So we're going to keep them kind of close together and hit insert. I'm still holding down the left mouse button, and insert, keep the left mouse button down, insert, still down, insert, and so on. So we're going to let go. We're done. We're happy. We're like that's good. So now we have all these little inserts or control points. What you can do is if you want to get to a certain one, say you want to lift one up or push one down, even lower one down, you can hit the arrow key to the right since we're on this far left, and it'll go to the next point. See it? It's going to move along. Just keep hitting that right arrow to the right, and it's going to keep following each one until you get the one you want. Say you want to lift that, you can lift it, you can lower it, whatever you want to do. Okay? Or you can just leave it where it's at, and you're just using this to get there. You know, you can go that way even, or you can go this way. So there you go there. So now you can keep going, or you can go the other way. Hit the left arrow key and go back. Of course it'll go back to there, and then it'll go to the other end if you keep hitting the left to go on over. Now typically we're going to hit up, and it'll go to the S, and hit down, and it'll go back to the E. So there's that. And then if you want to close the loop, say you want pedestrians to walk on a sidewalk that's around this whole block. So there's a block here. So say let's get on the S, and we're going to add some more. We're going to hit Control B as in boy. We're going to left mouse click, and then we're going to start insert, and we're going to make kind of a square or what have you. I think I might have missed this insert, but whatever. We'll do it the best we can. So we're going to stay kind of close. We'll do it like this. We'll hit here, insert. Now we'll start turning. and then go insert, insert, holding the left mouse button down, insert, 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 and just keep going. And we're going to go all the way around. And we're going to stop there. Alright, so apparently I did grab the wrong one. That's what happened. I'm going to have to undo it because I did click on the wrong insert. That was the problem. We're going to start from down here. Okay, we're going to hit Control B as in boy, left mouse click, insert, 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 insert. We're just making it like it's a block. It's not even going to be a full perfect block because I ain't got enough room. But we're going to stop when we're close to that. We're not going to touch it. Alright, now we're going to roll in. We can see that they're not touching. That we can even delete this particular one. And then we see they're not touching, but they're close, right? So we could even make it a little closer if we wanted to. Hit Control B and left mouse click, go a little bit closer. And say we want to close this loop. Well, we're going to hit O. And then it closes that loop so that they will just keep walking round and round and round, or they'll drive round and round and round, and what have you. Okay? Alright, so now if we want to, we could maneuver some of these. Say we wanted to move some, we could click on it, move it. Now you're not usually going to want to do all this wonkiness, but you can. So we're just say we want to move some of these. Just move them kind of how you want to do it. Pick on the ones you want. Depends on what you're really trying to make. And you can move it and put it how you want it. And then when you're satisfied, if it's just for the pedestrians, you're not gonna do this little script thing, set terrain height by spline. But in this video I want to show you a little more about that. So we're gonna jump onto that, and in this case what we're gonna do, since we want to make the ground up, we're gonna left click again on spline to make sure the whole thing moves at once and not just this. See, if I just lift that one, then only that one moves. So I'm gonna hit undo. But if I click back on spline again, it's gonna change it to a certain point, and then I can lift the whole thing. And now I want to lift the whole thing, and in this case I'm gonna go pretty high. I think that's high enough. And then we're gonna go scripts, terrain, set terrain height by spline, left click, and boom. Now we have this. So that gives us an area, whatever you want to make with it. Looks like we made a D. That's kind of funny. And that was not intentionally. And pretty much you can build things the way you want them. Say if you wanted something like to look like that, or to have a height of that height, or whatever you're trying to do. Then you can lift it higher and go back and hit it again, terrain, and set terrain height. And you can keep going. You can go higher, or what have you. Or you can move it over just a little, and then you can do it again. And it's just going to make it a little further over. See? So it just depends on what you're trying to do with it. And now we're going to go ahead and move to the next one and do one here. I got some stuff over there, as you can see. Now we're going to go ahead and make a new spline. Under create, spline, Control B as in boy, left click, roll in, click on E, drag it on over for a second just to get it away from all that mess. Now we're going to hit Control B, we're going to left click over here somewhere, left click, and I said Control B, and it's in boy. I'm going to click on the S and delete it, straighten it out a little bit more because it's kind of crooked. We're going to check it. We may have to delete another one because we need another. We have to make it where it goes up straight. Okay, we already did. So once we deleted that third dot, there's 3 dots when it gives it to you. It goes straighter when you do. If you don't delete that, it will curve. I'll show you that in a minute, but let's just drag it up, and we're going to make a ramp right here. So what we're going to do, and depending on the angle, it does worse or better depending on the angle that you use, and I'll show you that over there. Alright, so we're going to go to scripts. While that's highlighted, terrain, set terrain height by spline, and click it. And now we have that. See? And it's not always perfect, but it depends on what you're really doing. If you go longer, typically does a little better. So Let me create a new one and see if I can show you. Control B as in boy, left click, and we'll get on into the view where we can get there. Click on this E. Control B as in boy, left click, left click here. Well, actually, let me go back to that. So if you remember, we said we could press up or down. Okay, so it didn't move. Okay, good. So we're gonna click back on that left control, click it. Now we got it. Okay. So now we're gonna drag this out. Oh, they did a loop for us. I see what they did. They did a loop. That's okay. We'll move it. We're gonna delete this one. We're gonna grab this one and hit Control B as in boy and left click. Now we got it straight. Okay. So what they did is they gave us another point, and so it twisted it for us. Okay, so now what we're going to do in this case is add one control vertex by hitting insert, and then you'll see what happens when I lift this E. It's going to make a curve instead of straight. So what you're going to do is undo that, and if you delete this vertex, whatever, you only want two vertexes to make a straighter one. So this one, and then it'll lift straight up. But I'm not going to lift it yet. I want to go a little further. So let's Control B as in boy, and then go way down here. Oh, I didn't click it right. My bad. Let me try to click it again. Control B as in boy, left click. There we go. Now I'm going to lift it up, get us a, and I don't want to go too high. I want it to be a nice ramp. There we go. So, because we're not going to be driving up nothing too crazy. Alright, that should be good. Everything's good. Now we're going to hit it again. Terrain, set terrain height. There we go. See, it's a nicer, flatter. Looks better than the other one, if you'll see. So it just depends on what you're doing. Sometimes it's better or worse, depending on the angle. Notice this one's this way. Notice that one's a slight bit more of an angle that way, slightly. So depending on where you're at will matter of how it generates the ground. So in this case, we want to make that, say we want to make this ramp wider. We're going to go ahead and click back on the spline that's already highlighted, just to recent, so it grabs the whole thing, and we're drag it over just a little bit. And then we're going to regenerate it, terrain. We hit scripts terrain, set terrain height by spline, and make it wider. And then we're going to drag it over since we want to make it wider. Scripts terrain, set terrain height by spline, and make it wider. And as you can see now, we have a nice wide ramp to jump, or whatever we want to do. Now you can smooth that out if it's not perfect, but you get the point. Now the reason it's not perfect, if you don't start from a flat ground, it's going to be different. If you're on a hill, see this hill? Each time you run that spline, you're leaving the spline at the same height in the air, but the ground's higher here and lower here, so it's going to change. So if you want a perfect ramp, you need it to be a flat area. So take this area here, take the area you want. We're going to remove the grass, hit the foliage thing, and just get this out of the way so we can see what's going on. Okay, you don't have to do that. You can leave the grass, but I just want you to see. Alright, so now we're going to roll up to left mouse button, hit replace. Then we're going to hit terrain. And I want to replace, I'm not sure how deep I want it. Let me think. We're gonna put it at, we're gonna hit hover over this end because I want it lower, and we're gonna hit Control R, and it's gonna change this number here to where it's gonna make all this go down to this level and be equal with it. So now we're gonna left mouse button, as long as it's on replace still. Sometimes it changes to remove by accident. Oh, it's not even, there's not that's on 19. Apparently there's not a remove on here. On 19 it would go to remove. So, but now we're gonna left mouse click, and it's gonna bring that down and make this all one level. So let's just hurry and make it one level. And to do that faster, you can adjust the opacity, hardness, and all that up to make it just quicker, make it go faster. You don't, the reason you do them all, it just makes it more even. You don't have to do all of them. You can do one, but it just makes it all flatter quicker. It's just better to do it this way, in my opinion. Now we can make this a little bigger, make sure it's all level. Okay, so now we're going to turn that off, and we can just put that back on add, but you don't have to. And so now we're going to go ahead and do another spline. Create spline, control B as in boy, left mouse click, click on the E, excuse me. Control B as in boy, left mouse click, and we're going to left mouse click on the S and hit delete. Now we've deleted one vertex, so now when we lift this one, it will lift straight and a perfect line. If we don't delete that S, we would need to delete the other one that was next to it, or one of these lines, but you wouldn't want to delete this one because you just put that one there. So now we're going to lift it up. We don't want to go too high, but there you go. We'll lift it up, and now we're going to make a ramp. Scripts, terrain, set terrain height by spline, and there you go. Now we can move it again. We can move it by clicking on it again and move it over and make a wider spline road or whatever ramp or whatever you're making. And depending on how you move this, you could adjust it if you have to. Just move it accordingly. So just however you need to do it, and keep going, and then you have your ramp. And this one just still didn't do much better. The angle isn't that great. Let me try. I'm going to show you why when you do the turn. Let's move it over, and then we're going to do the turn and see how much better that gets, and see if we can't make it look better. Okay, and get this, set terrain. Alright, does that one look any better? Not much. I want to show you, because the one I did over here the same way, one of them was great. Look at this one. This one looks good. And then when you look at the other side, it looks even better. Look how perfect and straight that is. See, it's almost perfect. Real nice and square. So, and that, you can see the angle that was at. So the other one's angle was at a different angle. So let's try to angle it that way. Let's see what angle that was at. So it was off over this way. Oops, I'm in the middle. Shouldn't have done that. Let's undo that. Alright, so now we're going to drag it. Let's just drag it over here where we can see it. Alright. Now we're going to turn it and try to get it kind of like that angle. Like that one there. Now we're going to drag it over here. Let's see if we can get that angle and see if it changes the road. Alright. Now let's go in. Now see, that's the reason you don't want to turn it. See, when you turn it, you start getting problems like that. So that's why people say don't turn it. Alright, so we're going to do it again just to get everything tested. But as you can see, you can work with it. You can keep moving it and work with it and do what you need to do. But you see, so you just keep going over and hitting it, and there you go. And obviously we didn't put our terrain spline, this part, on the ground, this S starting point, so it's best to do that. If you want to do this type of area, you just take in, let me click on this one, show you. You just take your spline and make it look like this. So basically, well, let's make one real quick. You hit create, spline, control B as in boy, left mouse click, come on down to the bottom and hit E, and we're going to move over, and we're going to leave that spline point there. We will delete one, this one. We'll add another one. Hit insert and add one there, and we'll drag this this way just a hair. Alright, now we've made that, so we're going to click here and we're going to lift up. And now we get a kind of a curve. You can kind of adjust it and make it like that, kind of what you want, however high you need it. and say you needed something like that, you're just going to run it wherever you needed it. Obviously set it up where you need it and then run it, and then you can just keep moving it. Oh, hit undo if you mess up. You got to hit the spline again, left mouse click on that spline over here in the scene graph, and then hit it and run it. Before you hit it and run it, you need to move it after you hit it on the spline again to put it to where the whole thing will move. And then you're going to drag it over, scripts, terrain, set terrain height. There you go. Then you, since you've already hit it back, you can move it again without hitting spline again. Terrain, set terrain, and move it again. As you can see, it changed all that because we went through it. So now we're going to move it again, and we can just keep doing that until we get the desired effect that we want, as you can see. And that makes a nice curve there, which really looks nice depending on what you're trying to do with it, because there's sometimes you want something to look like that. So that one looks much better than the ramp, as you can see, but this ramp looks a little better since we did that. It kind of straightened it out a little bit. There we go. So as you can see, there's quite a bit you can do. I've not covered every single thing. I'm trying to keep this video short. As you know, I don't have internet and I need to upload it with a hotspot. So I'll get to more with the spline stuff later. I just wanted to give y'all a little something to play around with. And like I say, you can get this straight, pretty straight. You can smooth out what you need to if you need to smooth any out. But and this wasn't flat either, so that's probably why it changed that level a little bit. But anyway, I'm going to call that episode here. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm going to catch you on the next one. Please hit the like button, subscribe, turn on your notification bell if you want to receive a notification every time I post a video. Catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.